Yo, Team Locky Land, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing alright. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to go over my Mythic Plus guide for Brewmaster, right? So that's my main spec right now. So it's kind of the easiest to go over. As you can see here, it has my full list of azerite traits, my current corruption, my stat priority. So what I'll be going over here is the talent tree, best talents for it, how to keep aggro, the corruption I'm using, azerite traits, and all that, as well as gear. So let's get the easy thing out of the way. Obviously is the talents. To be honest with you, raid talents and Mythic Plus talents, that's not really much different. It doesn't really matter what level Mythic Plus you're doing. Me personally, I do up to over 15s, up to 18s, 19s right now. So if you're doing over a 15, I still use Eye of the Tiger. I mean, it's really simple. There's no thought that you have to put into it. It's literally just a passive that you're getting by using an ability that you already use. So some people like to go Chi Wave or Chi Burst. I don't think there's too many people really using that, to be honest with you. I would just stick with the Eye of the Tiger. You get the damage and the healing right off the bat by using Tiger Palm. So I would definitely use that. Now when we get to our movement abilities here, the difference that you're going to be getting is basically Chi Torpedo and Tiger's Lust. The higher you get in keys, and if you're in like a concentrated group, then I would say Tiger's Lust, because if you're on Discord with an organized group, people can call out that they need like a purge on their route or whatever, which that's what Tiger's Lust will do. I mean, when you're using Tiger's Lust, it's not necessarily going to be used on yourself. You're most likely going to be using it on your teammates and stuff like that. So, me personally, I use Chi Torpedo. Tiger's Lust, you're probably not going to be using until you're doing like 20s or over. That's because you're getting in concentrated groups. Like, you're going to be in an organized set Mythic Plus group for that. Like, you're the same people that you're running with on a weekly basis. So you're going to get an idea of when to use it and when to anticipate it. So for right now, I just use Torpedo. So next thing is light brewing. I mean, there's really nothing else in this tier that you would use. I don't use anything else in this tier. Reduces the cooldown of Iron Skin, Brew, and Purifying Brew by 3 seconds. Increases their maximum number of charges by 1. I mean, that's pretty much self-explanatory. Like, when you're playing Brewmaster, the whole thing is maximizing your brews. You don't want to be wasting them. So anything that's going to increase the charges and the cooldowns of it is definitely going to help you out a lot. Ring of Peace. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now. Ring of Peace is the most OP talent you can have in Mythic Plus. Okay? I want you guys to hear me right now. I don't want to see anybody use anything else here, okay? This is such a good talent. It's like the best utility you can possibly use in all situations. Like, whether you're talking about if it's a Sanguine week, if you want to separate the mobs during teaming because there's too many mobs. If you play it correctly, you can split the mobs with Ring of Peace and you don't have such a big bowl. You know, the only other thing here is Summon Black Ox, which I guess you could use with Skittish, but I don't know. I don't see a value for it. I'm sure there are circumstances for it, but I would just use Ring of Peace 100%. All right, Bobble Weave. Again, self-explanatory. It's a passive. Increases your duration of stagger by 3 seconds. Stagger's your main thing. Like, that's your main mitigation that you're going to be getting. So, yeah, to extend that is a pretty big deal. Your AoE, Russian Jade, Wind. It's 100% uptime on this. As you can see, it's a 5.3 second cooldown, but it lasts for almost 8 seconds. So realistically, the uptime on this should always be 100%. There's really nothing else here that you would use. And then high tolerance. Again, going back to stagger, it's your most effective mitigation for Brewmaster, and it's super important because a monk, the Brewmaster has the smallest health pool. Like if you look at my health pool right now, just a little over 700k. If you look at like the same eye level for blood DK, they're got 1 million health. Like, so they have a huge health pool, but they can't stagger. So I mean, it's just a huge thing for monks, Brewmaster, right? To have that stagger ability and to do everything you can to maximize stagger. So with that being said, now I want to go to some traits here. So again, this is going to go off of what kind of level you're doing. So to start, what you're going to want to do is, currently I use Concentrated Flame as my major. I won't switch over until I go over 20s. Once you hit the 20 mark, then you would switch this out for Conflict and Strife, because then it does outparse with the major that you're going to be getting for that. So what the major will do is, it's just the passive ability. Basically, every time you purify your stagger, so damage that you're staggering, it then gets pushed out as AoE damage. So, you know, you get the versatility, which is super important for Brewmaster, and I'll go over that in a second. Really, for any tank, that's super duper important, and you're gonna want that. But for the pure damage aspect, it get mobs down quicker, and it's really good for Tyrannical. So you're gonna do that for your major. Minor, Nullification, Barrier. I mean, at this point in the expansion, I'm sure everybody knows what these are. You basically get a barrier every 15 seconds, absorbing a certain amount of magic damage for 10 seconds. When it explodes, or when it expires, it explodes for AoE damage. Again, super good. Conflict and Strife gives you the versatility. Versatility is super important for pushing high keys. As you can see over here, if you look at my baseline, 30% versatility, that's baseline. That, if for anybody that watches me stream, which by the way, twitch.tv/LockyLand, check me out. If anybody watches me stream and pushing keys, you'll see this number right here, 30. You'll see that go up, hike up all the way to over 60, which I'll go over, which is because of the corruption, and I'll go over that in a second once we're done here. And then Strength of the Warden is basically just healing. The thing about Brewmaster is they can do a pretty good amount of healing to themselves. You know, if I'm with a good group, you could see like me doing 40k overall. I would say between 35 and 40k overall healing. Between your orbs, Strength of the Warden, and I have a 445 Mythic Urchin. So this really does the most of my healing. For crit, you're definitely going to want probably a little bit higher than where I'm at now. 25% is probably a good amount. I could probably take a little bit off of Mastery, even a little bit off of Verse, if I wanted to put it into crit, because it does increase your Celestial Fortune, which is going to increase the crit on your heals. So that's always good to have. So going over, since we're talking about stat priority here, basically what you're going to want to do is load up on Verse. Like, Verse Mastery is what you really want to load up on, and then crit. Haste is, like, I'm not going to say it's useless, but even at 14%, I feel like that's kind of high. I mean, I would be okay with 10% and then putting that 4% in crit. Like, I would be perfectly fine with that. That's probably what you should look for if you're pushing high keys. And when I say high keys, like, anything over a 15, even though 15 is not, like, anything crazy right now, that's definitely doable. But if you're going to, like, I'd say, like, 18 plus, you're going to want to stack your verse. And as a tank, you want verse anyway, because it's just a straight, it's not RNG, it's not nothing, it's just a straight increase in damage and decrease in damage taken, right? A damage reduction. So that's a great thing to have there. Now, look at my gear. So going back to this right here, if you look here at the top left, so I have 3 stacks of training in the Zao. Okay, now that increases the amount of stagger with your, it increases the amount of stagger with the amount of, it increases the amount of mastery with the stagger, level of stagger that you have. So, you know, if you have the highest amount of stagger, your mastery is increasing because of that. Let me just open it up here real quick. It's just better to read it off here. Yeah, so like I said, gain up to 468 mastery based on your current level of stagger. So, you know, you're not really purifying unless you hit, like, danger alert, like red. On my weak Rs, I have it as a red stagger alert. That's the only really time I purify. I never purify with medium or light stagger because you want to save it. Ablative shielding, really good if you fall below 40%. This, I'm only using this because I'll tell you why in a second. Realistically, you probably want, for Mythic Plus, you do want to get the Heart Corruption one, which I don't have any of. But if you don't have that, you could always go with Elusive Footwork. Blackout Strike deals an additional damage, and Blackout Strike critical hits grants an additional 1 stack of Elusive Brawler. So, if you play Monk, you should know what the Elusive Brawler will do. Each time you are hit with a melee attack or hit with Blackout Strike, you gain stacking 27.6% increased dodge chance until your next successful dodge. For Monk, dodge is really important. Like, you're dodging using that. You're stacking that to mitigate damage. You're being elusive, right? That's why they call it elusive. But when we go back to this, again, you want 3 stacks of these on your azerite traits. And then, same thing. I have 2 stacks of life speed, increases your haste and avoidance. Because I have that, my gear, that's why I say my gear can come off. I can take a couple percentages off my gear for haste. Then we got Boiling Brew. Basically deals damage and increased damage and has a chance to summon a healing sphere, which for your healing and if you're in trouble, you got some spheres up. Usually you don't want to use your expel harm unless you have like 3 or 4 spheres. Yeah, you don't want to use it when you have 1 sphere. It's not really going to do anything at that point. So those are the azerite traits there. Gear. So let's go to trinkets, because that's really the most important thing, right? Like, this is huge right here, this urchin, because it does so much healing, like absurd. So if you just look at your HPS meters, like after you're done with the fight, you'll see it's with Celestial Fortune, it's gonna be your top healing. And then Lingering Psychic Shell, which is super good for mitigation. I mean, you're basically reducing the damage you take by 80% for 8 seconds. So anytime I fall below 50%, it's usually like 40%, I'll pop it just in case. You know, it gives the healer a break. I can heal myself, pop a sphere. I could pop a healing potion, because it basically stops damage that I'm taking and gives me the ability to recover and heal back up. And it has a 1-minute cooldown, which is ridiculous. That's really ridiculous for this type of thing. My weapon, really what you really want for your weapon, which I haven't gotten a chance to farm, is going to be, if you get into a mythic group, mythic, go to Mott, kill Mott. He's really easy to kill on mythic. You'll get a 475 piece with verse mastery. You The corruption's useless, so you'll purge it. But that's super good weapon. You can also get the headpiece from Mont, which is also super good because you have training in the Zao, which, as I said before, you need 3 of those. And this is pretty good. Your secondary stats are all increased by 84, while your corruption is 25 or higher, which your corruption should be 25 or higher. I never go over 40, but as a tank, you really don't want to go over 40 if you're doing high keys. I mean, you could, but I would avoid it because you don't want the thing from the deep to just like do unnecessary damage to you. Now when we look at my corruption, so look, my corruption's under 40, it's 36, and I have 5 rank 3 versatile, right, which basically increases 12% from all sources of versatility. So if I have 5, that's 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. So anytime I get a versatility bonus, it's increased by 60%. So that means from versatile navigation, and that also means from conflict and strife, right? Because that's giving me versatility. Now, the other thing is when you do push higher keys, like I said, when you get over to 20s, you could be using this as your major, and then using this, which is also a versatility buff. So now your versatility is skyrocketing. Like, when I use this, it's really going really high. Like, I can hit 70-80% verse. Like, seriously. Which is great for damage and great for damage reduction, right? Because if I'm at 80%, right, that's 80% damage increased for that time period, and damage received is reduced by 40%. So during that time period, obviously that's not going to last. There's only a certain window that'll last for. Your versatility will go up and down based on your procs. So it's definitely something to look into. I would try both of them, see how you like it. With this, you have one less button to use, as opposed to if you're using the single target, which is the concentrated flame. If you're going to be using that, then that's an extra button that you're going to have in your rotation, right? So that's basically what I would use right now. The second option is more defensive. So if you struggle with dying or you're just taking a lot of damage, I would go over with the second option I gave you, which is Aegis, Nullification, Strength of the Warden, and Conflict and Strife as your major. Okay, like if you're worried about being a little bit more careful and you want more defense. So that's pretty that. Next thing that we're gonna go over, or maybe the last thing we'll go over, is rotation, just so you can see like the weak auras and like what each thing does. So basically we have like 2 taunts. My main taunt, which is provoke, and my keg smash. Keg smash really gets me aggro. You know, I pop that and it gives me AoE aggro basically. So if it's one important mob that I want to get aggro on before anything else, then I'm going straight with my provoke, right? So for example, when you look at when you're doing the obelisks, right? The one obelisk that has the minions, the 4 minions with it, and that fear people, I taunt the big guy first, and then the 4 little guys are running around without aggro, so I kick smash them. And now everybody's got aggro on me, we can all cleave the ads, and just focus on the big obelisk, and it's like, it's a non-issue, right? So, I mean, I would be doing the same thing there. Now, just look at my weak auras to see what's going on here, what my rotation is. So, my rotation is, you always want this up, Iron Skin Brew, you want that up 100%. Don't waste it, okay? Don't use it and then use another one before it ends. That's just a waste. You always want to keep this up 100% of the time. You also want to keep up your Tiger Palm up. Not necessarily the Tiger Palm, but the talent that we're getting, Eye of the Tiger. You want that. So that's over 8 seconds. So every 8 seconds, or if you're maxing out on energy, you're going to be using Tiger Palm. So let's give it a shot, see how it goes. Alright. Speeding my rotation up. You just want to make sure your Iron Skin is always up. Alright, it just went down, now you're up. Now you see my stagger here? My stagger is light, so I'm not going to purify anything. There's no reason to purify. I'm just going to be wasting something. That's basically it. Like, you're just going... It's a very simple rotation for Brewmaster. Brewmaster's best things are Ring of Peace and basically utility, the mobility and utility that a Brewmaster can bring. When it comes to Sanguine, Necrotic, I can Ring of Peace. If I have 30 stacks or over 20 stacks, I can stay in a little bit longer with Necrotic than any other tank, right? You know, even maybe aside from Warrior, because Warrior can just charge out of there, jump out of there real quick. Well, any other tank is going to kind of struggle to get out really quickly, because not only can I get out really quickly, but I can Ring a Piece and prevent them from ever reaching me. By the time they reach me, I get my Necrotic stacks fall completely off. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope this guide was really helpful. A little bit long, about 20 minutes here, but take a look at it and let me know, comment below if you have any questions, and also subscribe. Alright, Rocky out. Have a good one.